And we're live. Hello, everybody. Let's see. We've got Math Pig. We've got Robert X. We've got Critical Cripple. We've got M. Um, so today we're talking about Foolish One waving and silly incantations. Or rather, we're talking about the themes in Harry Potter.
Wingardium Leviosa.
I'm glad you made that joke and not me.
And here we've got, as usual, my co-host Jen, or as perhaps she's known now, Jill.
Jill. Half the people in here won't know what that was about.
And
that was hilarious.
And as a special guest, we have my wonderful wife and resident Harry Potter fanatic, Hissy.
Hi.
Or Hissy, because it's reversed.
That way. That way.
Yeah.
I'm going to book you for that.
Oh, you're very quiet, Hissy.
Very quiet,
Yeah, you need to pull yourself up a bit.
Oh, you just muted yourself.
That should be better.
Oh yeah,
way better.
Much better. Yay!
Way better. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay.
And hello, Doctor. So, at first we were going. I was gonna kind of just have us list out some general themes, but something happened in the news recently in Britain. Hissy, if you'll.
Yes, so those of you who are aware of British news will be aware of what's been trending all over Twitter this morning. And I don't watch it. I know nothing about this person, so it's only what I've picked up from tweets because I don't watch the news. Well, I don't watch the news on TV. This woman who supposedly was a star of some reality TV show was found dead in her home a couple of days ago. And it seems to be because she was being bullied quite horrendously by the mainstream media in the UK after an allegation of getting into an altercation with her partner. And she lost her job over it before anything was ever proven or anything like that. So from what I can work out. And I saw this and I knew we were doing this. So I messaged Ring and I said, listen, we have to talk about this because what the media have done, they've basically pulled a Rita Skeeter, and we have to say something about this.
Oh, very much.
So it is very timely. I appreciate it's a very sensitive issue, and I wish this woman's family all the best. And I terrible things happen every day, but this is something that I felt we had to at least acknowledge, if nothing else.
Yeah.
So that's where we're at. And now what this media have done, they bullied her horrendously. If you know about the UK, you know about the two big bullies in the media.
The Daily Fail?
The Daily Fail and the Scum. Which is how I shall refer to them to avoid, getting...
Also, I think we're getting some echo on your end, Hissy.
A little bit of echo, okay. I don't know how to fix that, so... Hopefully it sorts itself out.
Yeah.
Any better?
Well, let's see.
No.
Nope.
Okay. Nope. Okay. Right, what about now?
Testing. Well, it's less distorted echo.
Okay, right. What I'm going to do, hang on, because I've got about 3 different sets of headphones here. So wave bye-bye to the Slytherin headphones. I tried to be thematic, but it's not working. Right, let's try this one.
I can't hear you.
All right, now.
Yes.
Yep, we can hear you now.
This is why you should send me links to this kind of thing more than 10 minutes ahead so I can... My husband, what am I going to do with him? Right.
Leave him in America?
I can't do that. I've already married him. Okay,
Aw.
so it doesn't surprise you because you know what I'm like, Emily, in the chat there. This is what happened. They essentially, if you've read the Harry Potter books, which I hope you have, because kind of got to assume you do. The way Rita Skeeter went after Harry in the Order of the Phoenix, and the way that the media in general went after Harry in the Order of the Phoenix is very reminiscent of what seems to have gone on here. Totally different reason, but very reminiscent. And it is absolutely vile.
It's a sad indictment of the way the press works in the UK, because I don't think, whilst you get stuff like this happening in other publications around the world, it is not as endemic as it seems to be in the UK.
Well, the thing is with the Sun and with the Fail, with those two papers in particular, they know they can run a big headline, and then a week later they can put a retraction on page 17 in the bottom corner that no one's ever going to see, and the damage is already done, and legally they're covered.
Yeah. Yes, so, I think that's a problem with your legal system in that case.
Yeah, definitely.
Probably the best way to fix that would to make a law that says like any retractions have to have as much publicity as the story they're retracting.
We've been fighting for that for years, and there's a thing trending on Twitter at the moment, #Caroline's Law, the poor girl who sadly ended her life, was called Caroline, and well, I say girl, I think she was like 30 or 40.
36, wasn't it? 36, is that right?
Something like that. She was on Love Island. I don't know if anyone's heard of it, but yeah.
Well, not on, she was a host.
She was a host, okay. That makes sense. But this Caroline's Law, they want to bring in now that you're not allowed to publish something in a paper unless you've got undisputable fact. Unless you know for certain it's a fact. So you wouldn't be allowed to print allegations, you wouldn't be allowed to print fake news, is the idea. It's gaining traction on Twitter. I'll be very surprised if it goes anywhere, just because half of our news systems would literally just collapse overnight because they trade on misery.
Well, let's face it, that is all paper media has now, isn't it?
Plus the way the media cycle has been built, it's get any scrap you have out as fast as possible to try and beat the other guys.
Yeah, pretty much. And they've got to the point now, journalists just don't check stories before they print them, which is not helpful.
And they go for whatever's most sensational because it will sell paper.
And the problem is,
and they're desperate to sell papers because the print media is dying.
Yeah, gotta get those clicks and retweets.
Yeah, and what's also trending at the moment is don't buy the Sun, don't buy the Mail. Now, that's great, that's fantastic, but there are some of us who are genuinely confused where this is coming from, because excellent point, Emily, but there are some of us who are confused because actually I know in the household I grew up in, the Sun and the Mail, they were dirty words, and we've known since Hillsborough and the miners' strike not to buy these papers. So it's not a new thing that these papers are doing this. They've been behaving like this for the best part of 40 years, if not longer.
Yeah.
So I would definitely say that there's grounds to seriously consider where you get your news from in life, which is feeding into the. We all know what Rita Skeeter was like, how she was able to manipulate a large proportion of the wizarding culture against a teenage boy. Now, can you imagine if he hadn't had his friends around him, if he hadn't had that support in the bubble that was Hogwarts and being largely away from it? It already did a number on his mental health in the books. You can see what it does to him.
Yeah.
But
well, I mean, we also have.
could have been.
I mean, we also have a similar example earlier in the series. She did the same thing to Hagrid in Goblet of Fire.
Did she no Prisoner of Azkaban? She did that.
Yeah.
Where she outed him as a half giant.
Yeah.
And then there's the whole story in Deathly Hallows about how she does, which it is a theme all on its own.
Yeah.
But I think she's the personification of the worst of the news media across the planet.
Yeah.
And I really think
of the
fact that her,
the sleazy,
and her animagus form being a cockroach is not an accident.
I thought it was a beetle.
Beetle. Well, it's an ugly insect-looking thing.
She's the J. Jonah Jameson of Harry Potter.
She's very close to being the Piers Morgan of Harry Potter.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Actually, I wouldn't necessarily call her the J. Jonah Jameson of Harry Potter, because J. Jonah Jameson is, an editor with a crusade. He's not, he wants pictures of Spider-Man because Spider-Man's a menace.
Damn, you did that good.
Thank you.
Thank you for the discussion in there, Dave. Yes, beetles are cockroaches. And I agree, Emily, I see no difference between the two.
Yeah.
So that was just something I wanted to really say. And yes, you will notice I wave and I move about a lot.
Yeah.
If it's distracting you, sorry, it's just the way I am.
No, I mean, you've seen my videos. I talk a lot with my hands.
Yeah.
But
okay, so that's that one.
Yeah.
I did send you a list, so take your pick from what you want to discuss.
Let's see. So, and I'm not sure if this was actually on the list that you sent me, but here's a good one would be, so would you say that the Harry Potter books are condemning or celebrating isolationism?
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
That's a very complex question.
Yeah.
And I know it's got Jen thinking as well, judging by that expression. You could have warned me you were going to ask a question like that. I'd have found you some sources.
Yeah.
I think... as with everything Rowling does, I think she's very much taking the middle line. And she does that a lot on a lot of different issues. She takes a middle line that doesn't really fix anything.
Yeah.
But equally, the Harry Potter books they're not entirely isolationist.
Yeah.
Or at least they don't completely glorify isolationism. But I would say that there is you have to pass a certain test, jump through a certain number of hoops to break through the barrier.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a story of triumph over isolationism, in a sense. But it's really hard to say that because, I mean, in a lot of sense, Harry is completely manipulated.
Yeah.
He is a pawn in Dumbledore's game.
Absolutely, yeah, he is, and he's not the only one.
Oh no, definitely
as you can
not.
guess where my sympathies lie.
Yeah.
Well, yes, I agree with you. I mean, Dumbledore was not. I mean, if you look at Dumbledore's character, he was not a good person. He was way off it, I think he also knew he wasn't. But he strived to be better than what he was. But he still was held back by these things. He was a user and an abuser. He really was.
He was, and I think the Potter series especially does conflate being a good general or a good soldier with being a good person.
Yeah.
Which is concerning because both of those things require either total obedience or a complete lack of empathy, and neither of those things constitute a good person.
Yeah.
I mean, look into now I'm going to forget which books when they make Dumbledore's army, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that Order of the Phoenix?
Phoenix, yes, it
Order
is.
of the
The
Phoenix.
Order of the Phoenix.
Yeah.
Now, other than by sheer force of will brainwashing, why would these students suddenly decide that they're going to form their own little army and call themselves Dumbledore's army? Like they're just right underneath.
Yeah, I think
that is
she
a
did
form of
present
brainwashing.
she did present a weak argument that it was a joke because that was the Ministry's worst fear, and they were satirizing a little bit.
Yeah, kids don't do that.
But then at the same time, like these kids are always really more mature than they should be for those books. But at the same time, you've then got Harry declaring himself Dumbledore's man through and through at 16. No one should have that kind of loyalty to anything at 16.
Yeah, I agree with Emily in the chat. Harry was a pawn from the moment his parents died. As soon as Dumbledore saw a potential in Harry, Dumbledore realized the whole Horcrux thing right from the beginning. And he knew where it could go and how he could manipulate Harry to be exactly where he wanted it. He even basically put Harry in the position where he was going to be isolated so that he would fall under all of this. I mean, he's a complete and absolute prick.
Ooh.
And I mean, I think as well, I would go further, and I would say Harry was a pawn from the moment Dumbledore heard that prophecy.
Oh, yes, because that even was prior to that, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, because because there were only two options, so he made sure that Voldemort
he started manipulating Snape way back, didn't he? To be in the position where it was. So
Snape was caught outside that room by someone who was hinted very strongly to be Aberforth Dumbledore. If they didn't want Voldemort to hear that prophecy, it would have been so easy to obliviate him there or confund him there.
Yeah.
Dumbledore allowed him to leave there and carry that story back for whatever reason. But he did that knowing full well what it would cause, because no madman is going to allow someone to exist who could possibly bring them down.
No, that's right.
So it's very much... I think
Dumbledore was partly driven by his own guilt as well, though. I mean, I think there was definitely an element that Dumbledore had felt that he had failed. I mean, it was his fault that God damn it, I'm so sick. It was partly his fault over Grindelwald. It was definitely largely his fault over the way things went with Voldemort. With Tom Riddle, I was trying to remember what his actual name was.
Definitely, yeah.
With Tom,
I would definitely argue that Dumbledore made Tom Riddle. I could argue that very strongly.
I think you could. I think Dumbledore could have.
The seeds were there, but Dumbledore definitely watered them.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because he saw his potential, but he ignored the problems that came with that potential. That might have been guilt over what happened with Grindelwald.
I just think he managed them poorly. I don't think Dumbledore missed the danger Tom Riddle posed, because right at the beginning,
he didn't. He saw it.
Yeah,
that this kid is dangerous and bordering. He's got a lot of issues. I think it's Dumbledore did what Dumbledore always does. He looked away. He decided it wasn't his problem until it was too late.
Yeah.
He did the same with Snape. He did the same with Harry. Once these kids had already internalized, actually, no one cares about me, only what I can bring. It then became about, well, who's going to buy their loyalty first?
Yeah.
And it is very much. It's. I wouldn't willingly put any child in Dumbledore's care.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely not. No.
If only after, full disclaimer, which you probably already know from me floating around these kind of videos and things, I read and write a lot of fan fiction. And I think, I'm very active in the Harry Potter fandom. And one of the things that really gets to me is that nothing Dumbledore did could actually jars with how intelligent he's supposed to be. Like, everything he did, these mistakes he supposedly made, you ask average 12-year-old what they would do in that situation, and they'll tell you the opposite of what Dumbledore did. It seems too stupid to not be deliberate.
Oh no, he planned.
It seems like it was all planned. But the fact that we're talking about planning the murder of a young couple, we're talking about, a child being orphaned. How far back does this planning go? Did he look at 10-year-old Tom Riddle and say, I can use this to unite us over the wizarding world? Was that his final aim? Was he as much a danger as Tom Riddle? And
I think he might have been at the beginning.
You get into very dangerous territory making those kind of things. And that point Emily has made there is a brilliant point.
Yeah.
Tom Riddle is a mistake. Snape's a pattern. By the time he gets to Harry, that's deliberate malice afterthought.
But Tom isn't his first mistake. His first mistakes are with Grindelwald, which is what pushes Grindelwald over the edge.
Almost with Grindelwald, I can forgive it because Dumbledore himself was only a teenager.
Yeah, but that was his first mistake, and he seems to be.
But that was his first mistake.
And from then on, he seems to be trying to make up for his mistakes by making more mistakes.
Mm. And it's was it the Einstein quote that says repeating the same act expecting a different outcome? Dumbledore does that a lot, and you have to wonder if there's something psychologically wrong there that causes him to do that, or if it was all deliberate. Hi, Jay.
Hi, Jay.
Hello.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I totally agree. I think in a large sense, Dumbledore is as much a bad character, a bad guy in the series as Voldemort is.
Yeah.
Not to the same degree. I mean, he didn't go around killing people, but he put people in positions where they got killed.
Yeah.
And he knew that was going to happen. He knew how much danger he was putting them in.
Yeah.
And the reality was, he had the Elder Wand. He was supposedly the most powerful wizard there was. Why didn't he just take
Also, Raven says you've got to use your camera, Jay.
I mean, why didn't he just take Voldemort out? He could have done it. I know there's...
Well, at what point does it become acceptable to do that, though? Because then you get into moral questions about, would you kill baby Hitler? Well, would you kill a baby?
Well, no, I don't mean when he's a kid. But as an adult, why didn't Dumbledore just take him out? If he's that powerful, he can take him on, why doesn't he just take him out?
Yeah.
Because it wouldn't fulfill the prophecy that way.
Yeah.
What was that?
Yeah. And
because the prophecy wouldn't, because of the prophecy.
So
you're saying that Dumbledore, once he'd seen the prophecy, became part of it and therefore laid everything out in the path to make the prophecy happen.
Exactly.
He's an asshole.
Well, yeah, he's an asshole then, but that's the reason why he didn't do it early on. That's why he didn't stop him early on, is because of the prophecy itself.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Pre-prophecy, why didn't Dumbledore move? Someone's just said in the chat. I don't have a good answer for that.
I know there was reasons with Grindelwald. I mean, he'd done the whole unbreakable promise with Grindelwald, so he couldn't move on Grindelwald. He'd made it impossible for himself to move on Grindelwald, which is good. I think the plot twist is ridiculous in it, but I understand it, and they needed that so to say he couldn't. But he did not have that with Tom. He could have stopped Tom. He could have been a better guide for Tom, and Tom might not have turned out the way he was. But even so, once Tom had become Voldemort and started killing people and doing the wrong things, he could have stepped in and stopped it. And he chose not to.
This is something that I find in the Harry Potter books. It seems that the more time a student spends with Dumbledore, the less likely they are to go to Voldemort's side for whatever reason. We see this with Snape, who was never any interest, but you have most of the Order of the Phoenix who were Gryffindors, who would have had access to Dumbledore. And then you have the Slytherins, who Dumbledore largely ignores. And you do find that the more students spend time with Dumbledore and spend time with people of Dumbledore's ilk, the less likely they are to turn. And there is an argument to say that, hold on, someone should have seen this pattern and done something about it.
Yeah, he was as much a problem as... I was he playing out his issues with Grindelwald all over again and using Tom just to replay it?
I do think we can argue there's an element of trauma with Dumbledore. And an element of reliving his own past.
Yes, very definitely.
And
definitely psychologically damaged.
So I know this stream is about Harry Potter, but part of literary criticism is comparing to other works. And I'm talking about how Dumbledore groomed Harry to be a sacrifice, essentially. Reminded me a lot of Ender's Game.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, very much so. Those two, that's a fair comparison, I would say. To be a sacrifice. You're raising this child to be a killer.
Yeah.
Like, if you tell a child it's kill or be killed, you are telling that child you have to kill someone. There's no two ways about it. That's what that boils down to. And with Ender's Game, they got around his guilt by making him unaware of what he was doing.
Yeah.
In the Harry Potter books, it was all about self-defense and things like that. And so there are ways around it, but it does still boil down to the same thing as... I have no idea how Harry ever forgave Dumbledore for that.
Yeah, though in Ender's Game,
I don't know how Harry put up with Dumbledore at all.
When Ender realizes that it wasn't a game, it almost completely destroys him.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't read the book. I've only seen the film with Ender's Game.
Yeah.
But the breakdown, once he's told, actually, this happened and this wasn't a simulation. And I think we see, even right up until the crunch point in Deathly Hallows, that Harry was... he did not want to be a killer. He was not... He did not have that in him.
Yeah.
And you can see that. The way he killed Voldemort was with a defensive... Even, the whole King's Cross thing, whether it's in his head or whether it actually happened, he saw this thing, this abominable creature, which is supposed to be a representation of the last piece of Voldemort's soul, which is disgusting, and it looks like a half aborted fetus. Sorry if anyone's eating, but it does. Yep. And he still wants to help. He still knows that he's still a good person. And I don't know whether that's Dumbledore's success or Dumbledore's failure. You could probably write an entire essay arguing both sides.
Yeah.
But this is not a kid who wants to go out and actively kill people or hurt people.
No, I think that comes down to Dumbledore's failure, because the image that Harry has in his mind of Dumbledore is one of somebody who's got, you can't do anything about it and you've got to finish this and kill him. That's a Dumbledore telling him what to do.
Yeah.
That's Dumbledore going against what Harry's instinct is. So I honestly think Dumbledore's definitely groomed him to be the killer of Voldemort.
Yeah, Dumbledore very much set him up to be the perfect mercenary or the perfect soldier. Made sure he was isolated from a young age, only had certain people around him, made him believe that it was his duty to save other people. I mean, who lets an 11-year-old go hunting for the Philosopher's Stone? Who does that?
Yeah.
He was setting him up to be a messiah. He was setting him up to be a messiah or a martyr. See, it didn't matter to Dumbledore. Because if he dies, he becomes a martyr. If he wins, he's their messiah. How did it make any difference to Dumbledore? If he's martyred, Dumbledore wins. The only thing was that Dumbledore didn't win because because his own ego fucked himself up and got himself killed.
Yeah. And again, that's another one. You see Dumbledore doing that with Snape as well, isolating him, repeatedly telling him that,
It has
playing
to be
to
you.
his
You
guilt
have to
and not
kill
letting
me.
him get over his trauma as well, and setting him up to be the killer in that scenario.
Oh yeah, and he had
again,
no
Dumbledore's
choice.
very good at messing with the heads of
In all
abused
honesty,
children, I think.
Harry does become a hero in and of himself, but he's a damaged hero.
Yeah.
But the better hero is Snape.
I'm not going to argue with that one.
You just won Hissy over with that.
But he is. I mean, he fell into with this crowd. He came away from it, realized how bad it was. He worked against it, and then he walked back into the den again just to make sure that Harry could get what he wants, even though he couldn't abide Harry because Harry was the child he never had himself.
Yeah.
And Dumbledore took all of that away from him, and yet Snape rose above that and was the better person for it.
Yeah,
That's a hero.
and I think we've also got to argue with. I have this thing about Snape. There's two big Snape quotes. You've got always, and you've got lately those whom I could not save. You can always tell with which side they fall down on. I fall down on lately those whom I could not save, because what that's saying is by the time we get to just before Dumbledore dies and Dumbledore's trying to convince him to kill him, he's concerned for his own soul. He's starting to actually act of his own accord. And I have to be careful what I say now, because some of this is going in my dissertation. He's starting to act of his own accord, and he is starting to outrun Dumbledore's orders. And I do have to wonder at that point, if he's now acting beyond Dumbledore, how much that triggered Dumbledore to really push him to have to play the double agent in Deathly Hallows later on.
Yeah,
I do wonder if Dumbledore just
that...
didn't want him to move into the light.
If Dumbledore hadn't have put himself in a position where he was going to die from his own insecurities from putting the bloody ring on, which he should have known better, he would have known what he
really should have. Yeah.
If Dumbledore hadn't been left in that position, I still think he would have found another way to force Snape into doing what he wanted. I know he used his own death to force Snape his hand, but he would have done it differently.
I do definitely think with Snape, Draco was neither here nor there. Draco was never going to manage it on his own. Dumbledore set that up as well.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No.
Because
I agree with you. They he set all these people to play off against each other in this big battle so that he could have his final little win at the end. And come on.
And now that we're kind of moving into Snape, Rain made a good point. Is there may be a lot of good comparisons between Severus Snape and Zuko from Avatar.
Pass. I know nothing about Avatar.
Yeah, it's mostly the redeemed anti-hero kind of character arc.
Well, I mean, that character
arc in a lot of things.
I mean, Darth Vader is the same character.
Yeah.
I won't say Anakin is, but Darth Vader is.
Yeah.
Because I don't think the prequels give Anakin a good character in the first place.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of people in sort of the crossover section between Harry Potter and Star Wars who think that this, and I apologize if I mispronounce it, this Kylo Ren character.
Yeah, Kylo Ren.
Apparently has some sort of similarity with Snape in the damage that's being done to him mentally by his situation, which I know nothing about. I'd be interested to hear if either of you have an insight on that.
I'd have to see the Rise of Skywalker to be 100% certain on that.
I think Vader would be a closer analogy, because the manipulation the Emperor put onto Anakin and Vader himself to be in the position he was instead of being the person he could have been is exactly what happened to Snape.
Yeah.
And I mean, if we're talking about Snape and manipulation of where he was going and where he came from, that goes all the way back to middle of his 5th year at least, with the werewolf incident and the bullying incident that followed a few days later.
Oh yeah, I mean, let's face it.
Sean is
Harry's dad was a prick.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was don't get me started on that one. Ring's sitting back now because he knows
Lily
I'm just
picked
ready
the wrong
to go.
guy.
Yeah.
In her defence, and you won't hear me say that very often because I can't stand the girl. In her defence, I don't think Severus was ever a viable romantic interest for her. They'd known each other too long.
They were more.
I
like
know
siblings.
people I've known since I was that age. They were more like siblings. I would never have.
But it wasn't like that
looked
from
twice at
Snape,
those
so it was
people.
unrequited. Unfortunately,
I don't know
for
if it
Snape.
was like that from Snape though, because there is
No,
no textual
I
evidence
think
that he was in love with her.
his
Voldemort says it, and Dumbledore says it, but there's no textual evidence that Snape actually says he was for Lily. He wanted to stop her dating James, and
no, because Voldemort says Lily and Snape's not Voldemort, Dumbledore says to him Lily, and Snape goes, it's always Lily.
Dumbledore, yeah, that's the Patronus. But are we saying Harry's romantically in love with his father? Because Harry's Patronus is always prongs.
Yeah, but you could come to it that Harry's Patronus is genetic, whereas Snape, from his point, is talking about his devotion to Lily. Now, devotion is not necessarily love. I'll give you that. It could be a brotherly devotion, but I think in the context
be devoted to someone and not be in love with them.
No, I think in the context they were meaning it, Snape was definitely in love with her, even though she was not with him.
And
I think that is it.
I don't know. It seems to me that Patronuses are more on a spiritual level than, like, say, a genetic level. So what your it seems to me that what your Patronus is more about the state of your spirit or soul than So your Patronus would change due to
So why would Harry's be the same as his father's then? Because he didn't know what his father's Patronus was like, so he had no connection to be the same as his father's.
I have to say, I think my headcanon for that is he probably knew when he was a baby. I can just see sort of James and Sirius transforming, and it's a memory he's lost, but it's still there.
A childhood memory.
Very much in the same way.
One of the ones you don't remember. Okay, that's a possibility.
And of course, to make a Patronus, you have to have a happy memory.
And his happy memory is his parents, so that he's not even sure it's a real memory, so it could be kicked by that. So that is a possibility.
Yeah, it could be as well.
Which means that Snape's happy memory is his time with Lily, which is why his is.
Yeah, because this Patronus could very much just be a physical manifestation of his happiest memory. And looking at Snape's history and background, there wasn't much by way of happiness in his life.
Snape's statement of "it's always Lily." I've always done this for Lily. It's the only reason why I care about the boy at all is because of Lily, not for his sake. So that is very much. It's definitely a type of love. We can argue about which type of love it is, but it's very much a type of love. And I think the hints from JK is that it's meant to be romantic. However, having said that, JK is fucking retarded at hints.
JK is horrendous, and I strongly subscribe to the death of the author in the case of JK.
Yeah.
I strongly subscribe. I think pretty much as soon as she wrote the words "all was well" and Harry touched his scat, she lost all right to comment on this series.
Yeah.
And that text should not be taken as canon, because she does not know her ass from her elbow when it comes to her own series.
Oh, she doesn't know her ass from her elbow about
She can read her own books.
I mean, she is
And yet
not a
she
nice
claims to be
person
the-
herself. No wonder she
No,
has no idea of what a hero and a villain is, because she's not a nice person herself. So,
But
sorry,
yeah, she's
we were not going to talk about her as an
Yeah.
individual.
Yeah.
We're going to stick to the text.
Old Man Dan says the only thing I got out of Harry Potter were fights with my fundagelical ex over whether or not our kids were going to read the books or see the movies. And I'll say that, you know, I didn't read or watch Harry Potter until I was already like 23 or 24.
and that's because I was so
a couple of
horrified
years
and
ago.
lent them to you.
It's only been a couple years since I've, you know, seen the Harry Potter movies and watched.
I obviously read them all as an adult because they weren't published when I was a kid.
Yeah, well, for me, I think like I like them. They're good. They're not. I'm not as much of a fan. But I think if I had been the age, you know, if I had read them as they were being published because I was in that age demographic, I probably would have liked them more.
Yeah.
You're going to have to explain what Emily said about she also can't.
J.K. Rowling can't count. Her currency makes no sense and changes. The value of her currency changes throughout the books. The ages of her characters alter throughout the books. Do maths. I freely admit I am terrible at maths. I'm better at maths than her. And she's even worse at dates and times. You know, since when does September always fall on a Monday? She's terrible. She claims that she checked moon charts for Prisoner of Azkaban. No, she didn't. Half the full moon she talks about never happened, or were on different dates. Well, and she's.
But she always makes stuff up as she goes along. She doesn't care.
She does. But she doesn't care. But the thing is, she pretends she cares when fans question her on it. And then gets all defensive
about
and claims
she talks about.
Yeah, she is. She's got to be right. And the thing is, you might have written these stories. You might have all the backing behind it. But when you talk to someone like me, I grew up with those books. I've been in that fandom longer than I've been involved in anything else in my life. You cannot tell me I don't know those books and what's in those books, especially coming from someone who wrote them once and hasn't bothered reading them back. The early editions have errors in them. There's the famous mistake with Hermione's middle name that got changed between Philosopher's Stone and Goblet of Fire. And there's a few other ones as well. She does make quite a lot of errors.
How did the editors not pick it up?
I don't know.
Maybe they were on a really tight schedule and were just trying to pump them out as fast as possible.
It took her 4 years to write Goblet of Fire. They weren't on that tight schedule.
Oh. No.
Yeah,
she took 15 years from the first book to the last one, wasn't it? Something like that.
Something like that. I know she took a long time to write Goblet of Fire, but all the other ones seem to come out sort of annually.
Yeah. I don't. I mean, she's written one set of novels that are good.
Yeah.
Everything else she's written is garbage.
I mean, I'm massively in the fandom, and I would argue that actually it's arguable whether that series is good. And I have one point of evidence for this that I will tell you off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Harry Potter is by far the biggest fandom in fan fiction circles. Any fan go to that is English speaking, Harry Potter is at the top of the list by maybe
I agree. It is very popular.
10, 20, 30,000. The thing about fan fiction is the whole point of fan fiction is if you want it done right, do it yourself.
So the fact that there's more fan fiction generally means there's more
series
problems.
do not have a lot of fan fiction because people can't think of what to write about it.
Yeah.
She's a great world builder. She's a terrible storyteller.
Oh, I agree.
And that's what happens. She's created this amazing world, but her plot is garbage. And her plot, she's just pulled random bits from history, archetypes, myth, other stories. There's not an original aspect of the Harry Potter series. What's original is the way she's brought it together.
Yeah.
Which you can say that about any series,
Well,
to an extent, but
so basically what we're saying is Harry Potter is like British Star Wars.
in more ways than I think you realise.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the prequels aren't as good.
Well, yeah, like I told you when the ads for Crimes of Grindelwald came out, I said to you, you're getting to watch J.K. do to Harry Potter what Lucas did to Star Wars.
And I told you to shut up and leave me alone because I didn't want to think about it.
I still haven't watched that one yet.
Yeah.
I haven't either. I watched the first Fantastic Beasts. I haven't watched the
I liked the
second one.
first one.
I liked the first one. I thought it was cute, but I thought it was aimed more at an age group that's not necessarily the original Harry Potter fans. It was aimed at the next generation coming through. This is not a series meant for people who are now in the late 20s, early 30s.
40s.
Yeah. It's not meant for our age group, the age group that grew up with the Harry Potter series. It's just not.
Yeah.
Emily is my fan fiction co-writer. And she's just said that we keep notebooks of relevant dates for our own work, and we track things like moon cycles and things when we're working on Harry Potter fan fiction to try and make it more reliable than the actual books.
Yeah.
No one's complained so far. But it's Rowling clearly didn't put that kind of effort in.
Yeah.
And then she's got the nerve to tell people like us who are putting more effort into her series and her fandom than she is. She's got the nerve to tell us that our opinions and our ideas don't count.
Yeah.
And frankly, I am not going to sit and accept from any turf right-wing bigot that my ideas and opinions don't count.
Going there.
We're not going there.
agree
I'm only passing that
wholeheartedly,
comment once.
I agree wholeheartedly, but we weren't going to go there.
We weren't going to go there, but I'll say it. I don't mind. She can't sue me. I've got nothing for her to sue me for. She can have all the merch back if she wants to try and sue me. It's all I've got. But she's.
Or maybe she could have the mountains of debt that we have.
Yeah, she can come and take that.
Yeah, I mean you're right. She's a turf. She's got some really disgusting ideas. She plays lip service to anything LGBTQ just to try and appease her fandom, whilst on the other side stabbing them in the back. So no, she is not. It's no wonder Dumbledore is the way he is, because he's basically her.
Yeah. And I definitely, I saw with Rowling, it's gotten so bad now. I saw in April last year that read Rowling outs Harry Potter as bisexual, and I genuinely had to go check her Twitter to see if it was real.
Yeah.
She would do it if she thought it would win her woke points. No, it was a satire. But the fact that you semi-believe it.
But I don't see how she can possibly get woke points given the other shit that she's tweeted over the years.
Yeah.
I mean, she's not just anti-trans, she's anti-gay that don't believe she can do any wrong. You only have to read her other books to know what she thinks of anyone LGBTQ.
Oh yeah, she's really transphobic.
Incredibly transphobic. She's anti-gay, anti-lesbian as well. She's
anti-Semitic. She's very, and that's just from the Harry Potter book I'm drawing. That she plays a lot of anti-Semitic tropes. The concept. There's two characters in Gryffindor, Dean and Seamus. I don't care what anyone says. Those two are together, and those two have been together since they were about 14.
I
she
think she
wouldn't.
did, Emily. She sees herself
Yeah.
as good. She sees Dumbledore as good. She's everything in Dumbledore is her trying to get herself woke points, and yet he's still not good.
If Dumbledore equals J.K. Rowling, so she made herself male to give herself more credibility.
Yeah.
But see, she's come out and claimed that Hermione, Mary Sue character as such. Hermione's not a great person either. She locked a human being up in a jar for 6 months.
Yeah.
Like
Hermione's bitch.
Yeah.
Hermione is very. She's just.
I don't
and
like
then-
any of the main characters.
The two heroes, well, three heroes. There's actually three actual heroes of the Harry Potter books. You got Severus Snape, then you got Ron Weasley, and then you got Neville Longbottom. Those three are the actual heroes of the story. If you look back and watch what they do, the three of them are the actual heroes of the story. It's not your main characters.
How do I make it do this? Like, high five.
Yeah.
I agree. I was going to say Neville as well. I don't know if I technically count Ron as a hero, but he certainly doesn't have the flawed character traits that the other two have.
Definitely in the books, he's more of a hero.
Yeah, Ron's more
I
the
know
hero. Ron's more the hero like Samwise is to Frodo.
Yeah, Ron is the brains behind the hero.
Yeah, because if you didn't have Ron, you wouldn't have Harry the way he was. Just like if Sam wasn't the way Sam was, Frodo would have never been able to do what he did.
Oh, Frodo's definitely not.
Yeah, Harry would not have made it without Ron.
No.
I can easily see Harry making it without Hermione. I can't see him making it without Ron.
Yeah, he'd have made it without Hermione, but he would have never made it without Ron.
I can see him making it without Ron because he has the unbeatable power, the power of Deus Ex Machina. No, seriously.
Yeah, but Ron has the unbeatable power of knowing how to play chess.
Dave doesn't think Snape's a hero. Oh, Snape is the only character who has a proper hero's journey.
Yeah.
He is. He
from a
starts
literary
out,
standpoint, absolutely.
From a literary standpoint, he starts out. You see him as this person who could be the bad person, and then maybe not. And then
I think as well, conflating hero with nice person, good person, and nice person.
Yeah, no, heroes don't have to be nice.
I never seen.
Yeah, I mean, look at Hercules.
Yeah, I never seen.
How far back
I never seen Snape as a bad guy from the start. You know, I never seen him as that bad character.
He wasn't bad. He was just. That's a teacher giving a pop quiz and a mouthy kid answering him back. That's what that is.
Oh, yeah, well, exactly.
Like, you know you're an adult when you look at Snape's classroom and you realise that he was actually in the right every time.
Let's face it, Harry was a shit student.
He was.
Yeah,
he was
Ron, he and Hermione led Ron down the wrong track at every possible opportunity.
Yeah.
But Ron wasn't exactly Ron wasn't academic.
Yeah.
Ron was not an academic student. And I think Harry followed him in that. But Harry and Hermione didn't support Ron anywhere near as much as he supported them.
Oh, I agree.
Ron.
How the hell did Ron
it
end up
when Harry falls out with Ron? He's just.
That makes no sense at all. How the hell does Ron end up with Hermione?
That's one of those marriages. They married too young, too quick, when they were too relieved of surviving a war. I don't believe that marriage would have lasted in real life.
I don't think either.
Same with Harry and Ginny, to be fair. I don't believe either of those marriages would have lasted in real life.
But
Harry and Ginny are just a love thing come from shared...
no.
She's the ultimate fangirl. She knows nothing about him.
Yeah, Harry and Ginny just seems like super toxic to me. Like
Harry and Ginny is what's her name marrying Tom Cruise?
Katie Holmes.
But on Snape, you know, he's the hero Hogwarts needs. Or he's the hero Hogwarts deserves, but not the one it needs right now. He is the silent protector. watchful guardian, a dark knight.
I mean, he's
yeah.
definitely a hero. Snape is definitely a hero. In fact, he is the most hero of the heroes in the book.
I mean, if you look at the entire series, the one character you can't do without is Snape.
Oh,
Because
definitely.
without Snape, the whole plan falls apart.
Yeah.
And you can't say that. You can't even say that about Harry to an extent. Because if there's no Harry, there's Neville.
Yeah.
And Neville grew into himself. Like, Neville grew up.
I love
and heck,
And by far one of the best characters. He had a proper glow up.
I still kind of half hold with the fan theory that Harry was just a distraction and Neville was the real chosen one.
Well, it's the prophecy never really stated.
Write that fan fiction idea down.
Yeah, the prophecy never stated which of the two was the actual hero.
Yeah,
I actually think the whole story would have been better through Neville's eyes than Harry's.
If you look at what happened to both Harry and Neville, they basically the same thing happened to both of them. They both lost their parents. It was attacks, early on. The only difference is Voldemort went for the Potters instead of the Longbottoms. If he'd have went for the Longbottoms, it would have done the same thing because of, even Neville's mom loved Neville just as much as Lily loved Harry. So it could have went either way.
Well, I mean,
have it more
the thing is, Neville wasn't groomed, and he still stood up and played his part, and that matters.
Exactly.
That tells you that
he was a
because
real hero.
Neville, he was not groomed to be the hero. He's not groomed to sacrifice himself or to fight. At best, there's argument that his gran was quite loyal to Dumbledore politically, and he would have been raised into that. But you do see him think for himself a lot in this series, and he comes to that conclusion on its own. And Neville matters so much for that. And Neville is so much more important than a lot of people give him credit for. Because he had it all. He was rich, he was pureblood. He even fit like the Aryan archetype of being blonde-haired and blue-eyed in the books. He was what Draco Malfoy could have been with the right support at home and with the right friends around him.
And Raven has
and
a point.
I always felt those two were sides of
that the other person would wear Voldemort's mark. So Neville doesn't actually wear his mark. So you can see why.
But the thing with the mark,
the thing is, Voldemort placed that mark.
Exactly. If Voldemort would have went after Neville, the same thing would have happened with Neville. Neville would have got the scar too.
And it's quite conceivable.
And the thing is,
it's quite conceivable.
Neville has psychological scars of what Voldemort did.
Yeah.
Neville has the psychological scars.
Yeah.
Being that child who has to visit their parents in what is essentially a badly funded, badly run psych ward for most of your life, that's going to play on your mind mentally. That's going to do a lot of potential damage to you. So the scar doesn't have to be visible.
Harry didn't have those scars over his parents either, because he didn't remember them.
Well, the thing is with Harry, he doesn't remember them. And it's only after he goes to Hogwarts and starts thinking about them through the prism of his own experiences that he even develops any sort of sense of grieving for them.
That's right.
You see at the start of Philosopher's Stone, he wishes he had parents. He wishes someone would come and take him away. But he has no real foundation for that.
Yeah.
Whereas, Neville presumably has grown up hearing his gran tell him about how wonderful his parents were. He still gets to meet his parents. And there's a point here, assuming Neville's mum loved him enough. Neville's mum, after being driven absolutely out of her mind crazy from being tortured, still recognised her son enough that every time he goes to visit her in hospital, tries to give him something like a gift. That's love. That's love that goes beyond sanity even. So I think the argument that maybe she wouldn't have stood in Voldemort's way, I don't give it much weight. I think she would have, and the thing is, I don't know if it's a fandom idea or if it's canon, but wasn't she an aura? And I know they were both in the Order of the Phoenix as well.
I think they were both auras.
Yeah, they were both auras.
So, you know,
if I remember
Neville
right,
definitely has to...
if I remember right, Neville's gran was trying to push Neville into following in his parents' footsteps.
Yeah, she wanted him to take transfiguration instead of charms, because you need transfiguration to be an aura. Yeah. Also because she filled charms and she thought it was a soft subject, until McGonagall told Neville.
Yeah.
But with that, we can sit and discuss Snape all day. So, what's next on your list?
Okay, so we've kind of covered the Messiah archetype. Where did you send me that list?
In Facebook on Messenger.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can go back and find it.
Yeah.
Because I said, what do you want to talk about? Then immediately sent him a list of about a dozen things you could possibly talk about.
So have we now convinced Dave that Snape is a hero?
Have we?
I
That would
don't
be
know.
cool.
That's why I was asking.
Dave said he'll be right back about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll have to ask him when he gets back. Maybe he's gone to reread some of the books so he can argue with us.
Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, if you want some of the books, I've got multiple copies on my shelves.
Multiple?
Yeah.
I've got all the books somewhere.
I've got the 20th anniversary editions. I've got first edition copies of everyone in hardback. I've got the illustrated editions as they're being released. I've got the Slytherin Household editions as they're being released. So I think I'm well sorted for having sources.
You're an addict.
Yeah, just a little bit. You should see like my shelf. I also have.
Does it worry you about giving money to J.K. Rowling?
At this point,
most
it's not
of my
really.
Merch is bought.
Yeah.
Especially recently, most of my merch is bought off AliExpress, and it's not thing because I won't give money to a turf. The books I make an exception on because they're done through Bloomsbury and not through her, so she sees very little of it. But she is. I try, especially recently. I do try and avoid it. Yeah, hang on.
Yeah.
You can't monetize this video ring because they're gonna. This is probably not appropriate for YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where I am. Actually, I'm going to leave the camera there because now I can sit back like this.
Yeah.
What's your tattoo there?
That's a Snape quote as well.
I figured as much.
That's the line from the occlumency lessons. Fools who wear their hearts proudly on their sleeves, who cannot control their emotions, who wallow in sad memories and allow themselves to be provoked. Weak people, they stand no chance. Which the tattoo artist was quite surprised I got through it in one sitting. Because he put the silhouette on my wrist as well. Let me see if I can show you. And he was quite surprised. Because I told him, I said, I don't normally take well to being stuck with needles. He says, yes, you do. So yeah. It's a bit thing because of the way the camera is, but there's that there. When's Ring going to be showing his tattoo anyway?
150.
Oh, you said 100.
Yeah, but then Sam did his Christian rap thing. So
there's a difference. There's a difference because Sam's going to actively humiliate himself.
Yeah, true. So yeah. So when I guess when I get my 100 subscriber Q&A put together, but I still don't have any questions, and I still don't have any suggestions for what I should read in my Gollum voice.
I want to send you Voldemort quotes now.
Well, no, I'm specifically
in his Gollum voice.
Yeah, I'm specifically asking for quotes from apologists or Molly New tweets or.
We've all been
Multi-
tweeting Sid Ron for the last week and a half. You have plenty.
Yeah. And I'm not finding the list.
I could have sworn. Where is it? This is not very professionally put together. Next time, you make sure you have the list up.
Take a shot.
I'm his wife. I'm allowed to nag him.
Take a shot.
But
It's all right. When he eventually gets over there, you can kick his ass when he's not organized.
Slap him.
Oh, I do that anyway.
Yeah.
It's in the same chat I sent you the thumbnail for this ring. Because I made the thumbnail for him as well.
Oh, I feel
So-
good.
well, rather she took it, like went through the pictures of us being at the at
the Harry Potter thing.
Yeah.
I finally got him in Hufflepuff robes and a scarf, so I had to do it.
yeah.
No, Emily Evan is never organised.
I don't think Snape made him Robin. I think Dumbledore picked him to be Robin.
Yeah. Oh, so yeah, Snape isn't Wizard Batman. Snape is Wizard Nightwing.
Yeah, second Batman. Yes, with Dumbledore being Batman.
Oh yeah, because Dumbledore goes through students like Batman goes through Robins. Yeah.
Probably with the same desires. Ooh.
Oh.
Did I just suggest that Batman was...
Naughty Jen.
That-
Damn it,
If you're
Jen.
interested in that kind of plot, they're on AO3 as well.
Damn it,
Well,
Jen.
I mean the whole Batman and Robin. That allegation is as old as Batman and Robin.
It is.
Basically.
But I think that allegation was intensified by the campy 70 TV show.
No, no. Because actually what's his name that wrote Seduction of the Innocent? Actually cited Batman and Robin as
I found it.
as gay propaganda or something, or as in an inappropriate relationship. So actually,
Well, I mean, definitely the relationship between Batman and the various Robins is inappropriate.
Yeah.
Whether you call that sexually inappropriate is entirely different.
Yeah, he called it out as sexually inappropriate.
Yeah, it's definitely inappropriate. Batman definitely grooms these kids. He grooms them to do his
at least
shit.
at the very least, at least Damian Wayne has already been pre-groomed by growing up in the League of Assassins.
That doesn't make it any better. That makes it worse because he's fixating on a vulnerable child.
Damian is Batman's biological son. And it's I haven't really read much of that arc, but
that one won't be. Well, your hope isn't sexual.
So,
yeah. But
anyway, I found the list. So
let's see
what I will do. You've got redemption as a Christian theme in the Harry Potter series, which you're an atheist channel, which is why I included that one on the list for you. You can also talk about Messiah figures, like literally until the Kiesels come home.
Yeah, we kind of
already did that with Harry Potter, so
yeah.
We can do Harry as Odysseus. I sent Harry as Odysseus. I sent you about 3 different concepts that all go together basically under the heading of death.
Yeah.
And conceptions of bravery, classical mythological iconography, and literary relevance. It would help if I could say it. Or you've got trauma and traumatic response to indoctrination. Take your pick.
Well, I think we've got trauma in response to indoctrination, because definitely Harry was indoctrinated into the position he was going to take.
Yeah.
And that certainly improved his... I mean, right down to Harry being put with his uncle and aunt,
Yeah.
which was entirely Dumbledore's doing. There were alternatives they could have done.
That was actually priming him for the love bombing that he'd received when he went to Hogwarts.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, because I don't know, you're all atheist channels, and I have been watching a lot of your videos and things. It's almost reminiscent of the first time someone goes to like an evangelical church.
Yeah.
That love bombing. That
he went from nobody likes me, I am downtrodden, to
I'm a hero and everyone loves me and adores me.
Yeah.
And that rose him up to the point where he started to believe. I mean, when he says to Hermione, "But I am the chosen one," he half believes it himself at that point. You know,
and this is the problem. He's fallen for his own story.
Yeah. Well,
or he's fallen for Dumbledore's story, I would say.
Dumbledore's story. He has been completely groomed into this role of being a hero, either the hero or the martyr. He's going to end up being one or the other. And I don't honestly think Dumbledore cares which, because from Dumbledore's perspective, if Harry ends up a martyr, the rest of wizardom from everywhere rises up and destroys Voldemort. Yeah. And if Harry wins, then they've won anyway. So from Dumbledore's perspective, it doesn't matter what happens to Harry. Harry is irrelevant.
Yeah, even more so when you realise that Dumbledore didn't intend to live long enough to see it play out.
Yeah, it's very much heads I win, tails Voldemort loses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he knows Harry has to die anyway to destroy the Horcrux, so he doesn't care whether Harry somehow miraculously survives that or not.
Yeah.
And the fact that Hermione smacks him immediately after he says that.
Oh yeah, I love that.
Knocks some sense into him. Yeah.
But
he's very much.
And you can see it, especially in the last book, where Harry's like, no matter what, he has to complete his mission of getting all the Horcruxes because it's my duty, it's my job, it's my destiny. I am this.
The thing, no one said that Harry was the only person who could go out destroying Horcruxes. He just took that on himself.
Oh, Neville proved it.
Yeah.
Exactly. Ron proved it.
Yes. Harry took it on himself. So
why weren't the adults taking responsibility for this child?
Because
who sends a 17-year-old out on his own with a 10, an old camping kettle, and 2 other teenagers?
Yeah. Here's an interesting question. Which played more on Harry's psyche, the Horcrux or his indoctrination?
I think the Horcrux was irrelevant.
Yeah.
Harry could have lived a perfectly okay life and never found out about that Horcrux at all.
Well, no, I'm talking about Deathly Hallows when he's, got the necklace.
I think the Horcrux was the straw that brought the camel's back.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at it, because Harry was already more than ready to sacrifice himself. We see that in Goblet of Fire. Well, in Goblet of Fire, what happens is Harry, it's a very interesting progression Harry goes through in the last sort of 3 chapters of Goblet of Fire, because he comes out of the graveyard having given and done everything to try and survive, having decided in a moment that if he was going to die, he was going to die on his feet. And he was still fighting, and it's important that he was fighting to survive. He wanted to get out of there. He wanted to live. After then, he sits down and has a conversation with Dumbledore. He gets and off the top of my head, this quote, a fierce rush of pride at understanding the difference between being dragged into the ring and walking in with your head held high to face death, in an image that's very reminiscent of gladiatorial combat.
Yeah.
Which basically says something Dumbledore said to him in that conversation turned him from wanting to survive no matter what the cost and being willing to fight to survive to being willing to walk to his own death.
Yeah.
And that was Dumbledore's doing. That was no one else's doing.
Oh yeah, no,
And Dumbledore did that,
pushed
and
him
Dumbledore got him
entirely
at a
in that
point when he was completely vulnerable to that, and twisted him. And that's the turning point for Harry from being soldier to sacrifice, if you want to put it in those terms.
Yeah.
And
that's
the point at which, as a reader, you realise Harry is nothing but cannon fodder.
In a really big sense, Dumbledore has a god complex.
Mm.
Yeah.
You know,
And Harry's, yes, I did, because Harry is his quote unquote Lamb of God, very obviously from the
Harry is his Messiah.
Yeah.
And in actual fact,
Dumbledore sends his young man to die for everyone else.
Because Rowling kills him, he goes into this thing, and then he survives it. He comes back, and he's still the Messiah.
Yeah.
But what mattered was that he was willing to die for other people. It's a direct parallel with Christian biblical The Passion of Christ. It's his willingness to die that saved them. Not the fact that he died, it was his willingness to die.
Which was her originally story before, with how Harry's mum saves him. Her willingness to give up his life is what saves him. So Harry had to make the same sacrifice to save everyone else.
In very simple terms, Rain, in very general terms, from a literary point of view, pretty much yes.
But can I pick out a final flaw in her final plot, though?
Go on.
Harry defeating Voldemort relies entirely on the Elder Wand having allegiance to him because he
disarmed Draco, yes.
Draco, right? However, when a wizard dies, the wand doesn't maintain an allegiance to a dead wizard. Harry died, but came back. The Elder Wand should no longer have had an allegiance. It would not have had one for Voldemort either, but it would not have had an allegiance to Harry anymore.
Well, I mean,
Harry walked willingly to his death, so we have to presume that means that Voldemort didn't defeat him in the same way Snape didn't defeat Dumbledore.
Oh no, I agree that Voldemort did not.
So then the wand should have had no allegiance whatsoever in that final duel when it mattered.
No, I agree, but
I think that's
Harry only won because apparently the wand still had allegiance to him.
Well, yeah.
No, I just think the Great Hall actually magnifies disarming spells, because look what Snape did to Lockhart. That's my theory. Overpowered.
Look, you gotta look at it. See, the one thing you're forgetting is the wand didn't change hands after he died, though. He was still Harry's wand.
Harry had he picked up the wand at that point?
No, he didn't pick it up till later.
I thought he had it before he died.
Wand. It didn't have the Elder Wand. It was
Draco's wand was the Elder Wand.
And I've got to admit, the entire end fight in the movie shits me off because the book fight is actually better.
Right, we now have to go on to death. Okay. Because I have to get this out there. I have to make sure for posterity the whole world knows this. Voldemort was a man. He was supposed to die as a man, not as some flutter butterfly CGI effect.
Yeah.
He was not some demon or some evil. He was human. Danger of Voldemort is not a thing. Although I love that. That's hilarious. I'm stealing that.
Yeah.
I just that irritated me so much because the imagery of what that was supposed to symbolize in the books was completely lost in the films.
Oh yeah, no.
Sorry, that's my rant.
Even Harry casting the shield spell within the hall, which is put to great effect in the book. It was like Harry has accepted. That was a turning point in Harry accepting his position and being able to use what power he did have as a wizard, and he doesn't even do it. In the book, he doesn't push everyone out of the fight. He doesn't take on Dumbledore. He doesn't take Dumbledore. He doesn't take on Voldemort on his own. Voldemort challenges him, and that's entirely different.
And he picks up the gauntlet. He doesn't throw it down. It's totally different.
And
the entire point is he's supposed to be a defensive wizard.
Yeah.
So okay, but kind of back to the kind of indoctrination thing, because I just remembered something. Who here has read the comic League of Extraordinary Gentlemen?
No.
Jay, have you read like all of it?
No, I've seen like the first one.
Okay, so you haven't read the modern.
Mm-mm.
Okay, so everyone knows the premise, right?
I've seen the movie.
Yeah, all these great characters from different stories come together to bring down a big bad or something.
Well, yeah. Basically, the premise of the comic is everything in fiction. Everything in fiction all kind of exists in the same world.
What?
It's the ultimate crossover fan fiction.
Essentially. So, and there's a graphic novel that takes place in the modern day where that features Harry Potter. And it touches on kind of the indoctrination and such. But in that depiction, Harry actually ends up snapping and going on like a magical school shooter spree in Hogwarts, and then becomes the Antichrist.
Yeah. Also, why am I only hearing about this now?
I've actually got a physical copy of it.
You need to send that to me. But yeah, I mean, I have this concept, and I put it in most of my fan fictions. And I'm sure Emily will agree with me and back me up. I have this theory that once Harry actually started to process everything that happened in that war, one nightmare I always imagine him having is reliving that duel, but he's dueling Dumbledore. Which, because he has to at some point, in order to grow as a person beyond what we see in the books, he has to accept that Dumbledore was just a big part of his life as Voldemort was. And was just as detrimental to it.
I honestly think if you were really going to honestly follow it through, Harry Potter would have cracked at some point, and he would have become the next Voldemort that everyone had to worry about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because the way he was groomed, the way he was that savior complex, which was fed by the fact that he won in the end, would have just gone to his head. He was groomed into that position. That was the way his psyche worked. He would have walked on from that and go. He would have walked on and taken that on as who he was. He was not humble.
And it is absolutely not healthy. Like, JK's got this thing where she says that they were all offered positions as auras after the war. It is absolutely not healthy to put a bunch of former prisoners of war, child soldiers, and things like that into a role where they have to chase dark wizards for the rest of their lives. Without any therapy or any help first. That's going to cause
to be a dark wizard.
Yeah, you're going to have an entire generation who are absolutely loyal to Harry Potter and who were all mentally ever so slightly not quite right in some way or another.
Look how eager Harry was in the book to use the Crucius spell once he could to get what he wanted. I mean,
he was very open to using unforgivable curses once he figured out how to cast them.
Once he figured out how to use them, how long was it going to be until he went further with that?
I think
how happy was he once he figured out what Snape's curse was that did it was almost an unforgivable curse, but it wasn't labeled as one. How eager was he to use that on Snape? I know it didn't work because Snape was better.
And a lot of it's trauma as well with Harry, and. You know, I'm sure we've all been through our own traumas. When you're in that situation, the last thing you need is to be handed weapons.
Yeah.
And he was constantly handed weapons. No, in all honesty, Harry would have gone bad. There's no other way that story can go.
Yeah.
So if she ever, and let's hope she never does. But if she ever does a follow-on series, it would have to be Dark Harry.
Yeah.
I hope not. I really hope she doesn't.
I'd actually be more happy if she gave it all up and let somebody else write it.
Well, no, she did that with Cursed Child, and look how that turned out.
Well, that's true.
But with Cursed Child, I think I've seen it on stage and I've read it. It does play a lot better on stage. But even still, you can see there the darkness in Harry. I don't care how bad your kids are, you don't tell your kids that you don't love them.
Yeah.
You don't try and interfere with Hogwarts as Harry Potter, unless something. So Harry quite clearly still had issues at that point. I think what was a failure of Cursed Child was a lot of it was focused on his time with the Dursleys and the trauma from that, which is all well and good, but compared to what he went through afterwards, his trauma with the Dursleys pales into insignificance.
Yeah. Well, like I
agree with
said,
Greg. The way
his trauma with
sorry.
his trauma with the Dursleys was basically only there to prime him for being groomed by Dumbledore.
Oh, it was.
Well, the difference between Harry and Snape is that when Harry got to Hogwarts, he got love bombed.
Yeah.
Snape never got that. Snape didn't get love bombed until the Death Eaters realised they could make use of him.
Yeah.
Which that's my headcanon for it, because those would have been the first people, other than Lily, to actually see him as a human being and see him as, someone worth talking to. And when you spent your entire life being bullied and lonely, you are going to latch onto that. I don't care who you are.
Yeah.
And it is definitely, he's a very, that I think is the difference between them. If you put Harry and Severus in the same year at school and gave them the same backstory, they turn out the same way.
Yeah.
The fact it's the way they were treated once they got to Hogwarts that changed things.
They were both manipulated in different ways.
Yeah.
And also, thank you, Dave, for showing us in the chat.
Yes, thanks,
Brilliant.
Dave.
Thank you, Dave.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, it's.
Oh,
yeah. I don't see any way out for Harry. He leaves. I mean, I know that J.K. wrote it differently, but as soon as he ends, I don't see any way that doesn't go to Harry's head.
Yeah.
That's what he was groomed for. It's where he was heading. Short of a shit ton of therapy, there is no way he doesn't come out of there with a god complex himself.
And
the problem is, what does he do next?
And wizards, as far as I can tell, the wizarding world doesn't have therapy.
Yeah, they just stick them all on the same hospital ward and forget about it.
Yeah,
Harry's character would have meant that he would never have given up the Elder Wand after being.
I think Harry would have thought that he had to hold on to it to stop someone else getting it, and then slowly that would have become, I have to use it to make the world better.
Yeah,
but then who decides on what makes it better or worse? And again, it's the same thing as with Dumbledore. The road to hell is paved with good intentions.
I mean, let's face it, the Elder Wand is the One Ring.
No,
it is,
actually, technically, the Horcruxes are the One Ring, in a way.
No, but I mean, in the sense that a person can have the ring and they can think that they can do good with it, but ultimately it corrupts the person. And the Elder Wand is exactly that. Everyone who'd ever held it was corrupt by it, even Dumbledore.
Yeah.
Exactly how Hallows to some extent were like that. Hold on.
And Harry was touched by two of them.
Hold on.
No, Harry ended up touched by all of them.
Yeah.
And the thing
So
is, as well, I saw. I actually saw something on Twitter that frightened me. Someone talking about, this whole thing of VR, and they're saying now that one person on Twitter was saying they're going to make it possible for you to interact with people who have died.
Yeah.
Frightening to me, because if someone offered me the chance to put a VR headset on and talk to someone who had died, who I had loved that much, I mean, my mind immediately jumps to my mum. But I could in good conscience accept that opportunity, because it would do such a number in my head. And that has to be the lesson we take from things like the Resurrection Stone and the Mirror of Erised series, that you have to let sleeping dogs lie. You have to learn to move on.
Yeah. Harry never
Also,
does.
you're gonna have to blame Rain and Emily for this, but Rain said thousands of wizards groomed to think of him as a hero would immediately elect to try and make him wizard in the wizarding prime minister, and then
I know.
Harry doesn't have a head for politics. Yikes! So I
wrote
sorry.
fan fiction once that he elected
But-
Lucius Malfoy to do that
Yeah, but
because
I'm
that's the kind of mentality.
I will apologize to you, Hissy, for this, but
No.
they're not sending their best. They're sending their dark wizards. They're sending their Death Eaters. We will put a ward around Britain, and Beaubaton is going to pay for it.
Boo. Boo. That was
Joey
horrible.
Armstrong is the dark
That was
magic
horrible.
school, but yeah, no, I wouldn't want a Harry Potter wizarding prime minister, mainly because he would have been prime minister at around the same time as Tony Blair, and that wouldn't go well. That would not go well. A warmonger on one side and a child soldier on no.
Oh yeah.
No. Yeah.
But I mean, it's what would have happened. Harry would have gone on to revel in his herodom and his fake herodom in his Messiah complex, and he would have gone on to try to right the wrongs of the hero world. He would have been what's the name from Game of Thrones?
Yeah.
Daenerys?
Daenerys. Yeah.
Yeah. That's how I see Harry playing
In
out
fact-
if he was.
In fact, he had more reasons to be it than Daenerys did. Daenerys going off the rails and becoming that didn't actually make sense for Daenerys' character. It does for Harry Potter, though.
What am I looking at? I can't quite make it out with the shine on the screen.
It's a glare. There we go.
Professor Sprout!
And apparently, Emily thinks Harry would have Avada Kedavra Blair as Minister of Magic.
No, he would have teamed up with him because Blair said all the right things in the right way, and Harry would have been just thick enough to fall for it. I mean, I can say that much back in hindsight. The British population
in all
does not
honesty,
fall for Blair's, weapons of mass destruction.
All Harry needed was an adult figure that he could idolize, and Harry was perfect spot to be groomed again.
Yeah,
and then be used. And Harry liked the Muggle world, so yes, it was very probable he would have just become a tool for the Muggle politicians, and I imagine how that would have ended up.
Harry had serious, severe series. He's just constantly looking for. He just is.
Yeah.
And he's not getting anything resembling it. One of the greatest things I ever read on Tumblr, one of the best character metas I ever came across, a single line, and it just said, "The greatest tragedy of Sirius and Harry is that they both looked at each other and hoped to see James."
Yeah.
Which works on so many levels.
No,
but that,
Muggle.
Also, potentially, Arthur Weasley could be a worse dark wizard than Voldemort.
Arthur Weasley fiddles with Muggle technology and charms it.
Yeah,
like, Arthur Weasley is dangerous.
Yeah, Arthur Weasley dabbles in science, which seems
Arthur
to me
Weasley
like
is incompetently dangerous.
Yeah,
he's okay. And I mean, you talk about wizards who torture Muggles being dark wizards, a la the Death Eaters.
Yeah.
As far as I'm aware, none of the Death Eaters tried to turn a Muggle child into a pig for what his father said.
Yeah.
Which, say what you want about Hagrid. Yeah, just Emily, the flying car. Yeah.
Yeah.
But all these people who are supposedly light wizard really aren't. Light and dark wizard seems to be, oh, I like them, but not them.
Yeah.
There seems to, there is no real codification of what being a light or dark wizard means. As far as I can tell, being a dark wizard means you think for yourself and you don't do what Dumbledore tells you.
There are good wizards on both sides.
Not necessarily that far, but you know, I'm not going to stand here and defend the stuff Bellatrix and the Carrows got up to, but mainly because I'm not stood up. But you know what I mean.
I don't think that's a case of light and dark wizards. You've got criminally insane and all the other wizards.
I think but then within that you've got this concept of light and dark, and so far as I can tell, all dark
explains that at all.
He doesn't, no, and it just seems to be the application
light and dark
of
politics.
Thinking.
Yeah, it's the light and dark is, she basically runs it down the lines of, oh, do you accept people who are Muggle born or don't you?
Yeah. Oh.
Which is odd.
Yeah, to be fair.
Which is odd considering she's a TERF that she chose the path she did in her books.
So
yeah, but
here's an interesting thought. So, because of how light versus dark is denoted in the Harry Potter series, and because of how influential the Harry Potter series was to the millennial generation, could Harry Potter be at least partially responsible for the cancel culture that we see today?
No, there's an argument for it. I would say there might be,
I mean, it existed before as well.
We're talking about a generation that read these books in our formative years and internalized the messages in these books. And the message in these books is if they're not with us, they're against us. And if they're not against us, they're evil. I can see how my generation might have taken that and drawn it into their real lives. I don't think it was the only thing. And I don't think by any stretch of the imagination it's solely responsible. But I think that there is an argument that it was a contributing factor. But you can say that again about any series, any fantasy series with good and evil.
Yeah.
I think the only reason Potter is picked out is because it was so popular. You know, it really is. It was very much. You couldn't go anywhere in the early 2000s without running across Harry Potter. I don't know how evangelical fans managed to avoid it. It was just, it was everywhere.
You don't have grey areas as much in fiction. That's the thing. In real life, we have areas of grey, but in fiction, you tend not to. I mean, look at Star Wars. It was the same.
Yeah. So I think possibly we're looking at.
Yeah. So.
Dave. Yeah. Sorry, I'm going to say mid-20s. They say a lady never reveals her age, so I won't. Although I'm not much of a lady. Modern historian undergrad with American studies, American politics, etc. And I'm a classicist at masters, so ancient Rome, ancient Greece. So I'm coming at it from that point of view. I've also got quite a strong grounding in English literature, which I did at A-level, and sort of history and politics from there. But I think you look at things like Star Trek, Star Wars, there is an argument that all these things have eventually added up, and Potter is, again, the straw that brought the camel's back. I use that phrase a lot with this series.
Yeah.
And it was the right series at the right time to do that. And very much...
Yeah, and I mean, J.K. herself is a very big believer in cancel culture, so...
Yeah.
She is until it applies to her.
Yeah, which is hilarious, but that's normally the way of people who are like that, isn't it? It's like, you can't tell me what to think. You're telling everybody else what to think, woman.
Yeah.
She is very... Let's not get on to her. We said we were going to keep it civil.
We've already done it a few times.
Yeah, let's try and keep it as civil as we can. But I do think she's. This makes it very difficult to come up with one particular answer to anything.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to point to it. And she's so contradictory in a series as well. There are a few sort of underlying themes. Loving Harry Potter till the cows come home. You could talk about the theme of loyalty, of death, how to double death or dishonorable death. You can talk about those things, but when you actually try and
Yeah.
I mean, you've got to wonder what Rowling's life was growing up herself to think that concept of somebody being used the way Harry was by Dumbledore was a good relationship.
I really hope she doesn't think it was a good relationship.
No, I think she does.
As much as I don't like her as a person, I wouldn't wish on anyone the mental, I'm going to say it, the mental torture required to look at that relationship and think anything positive of it.
Well,
it is incredibly abusive.
No, but I don't think she actually sees that in that relationship. I honestly think she sees Dumbledore as a hero, as a good person. And I don't see how you can.
So here's the question: is it really JK's opinion that that comes through the books, or is it just Harry being somewhat of an unreliable narrator?
Little bit of both, but I think she's far too defensive about these books for them not to be a representation of her thoughts.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. She gets so defensive about them, there is no way that this is not her own opinions.
This is
because
why...
if I write a book or a story about someone who is the way Dumbledore was and I don't agree with it, I'm not going to defend that character later on, and she does.
Yeah.
Which tells me that she agrees with a lot of what went on in those books, which...
And of course, she's written the prequels herself, and she hasn't made Dumbledore look any better in those. He's still
she didn't make James and Sirius looking...
Yeah, I mean, he's still manipulating people into doing the stuff for him.
Yeah, I mean, I can talk for a long time about what he did to Snape after the werewolf incident. Horrific.
I mean, look what he's doing to what's his name in the prequel movies.
Dumbledore creates soldiers for himself.
He does.
Yeah.
He takes people.
And not in a
it's very much. It's the accusation that was thrown at, I think, the 10th Doctor in Doctor Who, where someone says you take these people and you fashion them into weapons. You don't carry a gun because you don't have to. All the people around you are willing to kill and die for you. I think it's in the episode with the master where he destroys the planet, isn't it? So
no. It's the episode with that Davros says it to him. In the episode with the
yeah.
It's no master. That's Davros. But I mean, there's a difference here. I would agree that the Doctor rises people up and turns them into better versions of themselves. But the Doctor doesn't manipulate and groom people into those roles. The Doctor gives the people the tools to do it for themselves. There is a difference.
And that is the difference. That's very much the difference.
Doesn't preset these people up to do these things.
Yeah.
They have their own choices. Whereas I don't think that Snape or Harry or anybody else ended up with a choice. Dumbledore fixed it so that they didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can honestly say, looking at who, like, very early on with 11, because I couldn't with the writing of the show. Had no problem with the Doctor, just couldn't with the writing of the show. And I can't think of a single person the Doctor interacted with who I would say they were groomed or they were treated in such a way that it would make them that way. All he did was hand them the tools for the job. Whereas Dumbledore didn't just hand them the tools, he taught them his way of using them.
Oh, and he set their lives in motion. He controlled the direction of their lives to lead them to the position he wanted them. He used them as pawns.
He did.
I mean, that's the archetype of a villain.
Yeah.
He's-
Well, the Dumbledore, the Dumbledore protege Batman Robin comparison is actually like really, really valid.
Yeah, incredibly so. Emily doesn't have a camera and microphone. She could come on and tell you more.
Yeah.
I never met anybody who wasn't important. Exactly. The Doctor's philosophy, people were important. The Doctor would always put himself on the line or herself on the line to protect those people.
Yeah.
Dumbledore was not
Whereas
the same.
Dumbledore put those people on the line to protect him. That's
Yeah.
the difference.
So I'm wondering, was Dumbledore's parents shot in an alley?
No, Dumbledore's parents were supposedly pretty okay. The whole issue with Dumbledore came from his sister. I know you were taking the minute, but I'm going to play it straight.
Yeah.
Dumbledore's issues with his sister are some of the flimsiest excuses for the behaviour of a character I've ever seen.
Yeah, there is no
because
explanation for the way Dumbledore was. I think he liked Grindelwald. He was just a really powerful wizard who had ideas of grandeur.
And I forgot about making those Christmas ornaments.
And Grindelwald, that was the difference.
Tissue.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. And we can. I feel like we keep coming back to Dumbledore, and it is important. But there are. Dumbledore has his issues, and I will, because he's, like I said, I'd never trust him with any child I was responsible for.
Yeah.
But I think that doesn't excuse the behaviour of some of the other teachers at Hogwarts.
Oh yeah.
Grindelwald is shared fault between Grindelwald and Dumbledore. Everything that happens
Oh,
with Voldemort,
is anyone
etc.
else hearing that?
Yeah, I was hearing it too. Jay, I think we're getting audio from you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything that happens after Grindelwald is basically Dumbledore's fault.
Yeah,
it's Raven's fault.
Dumbledore basically is the main reason why Voldemort ends up the way he is. He's the reason why Harry ends up in the position he's in. He's the reason for all of it.
Yeah.
So all those people that die are on Dumbledore's hands to a certain extent.
I mean,
so you want to?
I wouldn't say 100% on Dumbledore's hands.
Oh no, Voldemort.
I think there's a line because we can't take agency from these characters who behaved how they chose to.
Oh no, I definitely agree, but I think Dumbledore shares a lot of that blame for what, and he certainly set the wheels in motion for all of it to happen.
Yeah, and I think it wasn't what Dumbledore did, more what Dumbledore didn't do that caused a lot of this. Dumbledore could have helped Tom Riddle. He could have helped Snape. He chose not to. And from the man who literally said our choices show what we truly are, that's quite a damning indictment to make.
Yeah,
and quite a damning thing to say about him, that he actively chose not to help these people.
And he got
I thought Dumbledore said he didn't get to Tom in time enough to change to fix the issue.
He was there. He was the teacher.
He got to Tom when he was 11 years old.
Yeah, but I thought
that's just a very.
I could have swore he said something in the lines of the fact that he wasn't there in time to fix the issue that broke him. I might be thinking of something else too.
He was there to guide him later on and make him a better person.
There's no such thing as an 11-year-old who can't be saved. There's no such thing as an 11-year-old who can't be given the right treatment. I don't care what anyone says. At that age, children are malleable and children can be led in a certain way. And Dumbledore failed to take ownership of that and help Tom Riddle. The kid had a rough life, yes, but there is no excuse for letting him carry on down that path at that age. Because he didn't perform his first kill until he was 15. Dumbledore had 5 years where he did nothing. He did literally nothing.
Yeah. So here's an interesting thought. Because they go into Hogwarts at age 10ish, right?
11, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I say so 10, 11, depending on when they were born. That year of schooling.
They will turn. Let me see. They will turn. It's year 7, isn't it? Children entering year 7 are generally between 10 and a half and 12. So, so to go into year 7, yeah. So they'll be turning 12 in that year, in that school year of the first year of Hogwarts, or they should be.
Yeah. So, you're taking kids, but between 10 and 12, and you're sorting them into different houses that they are told represent these certain personality traits. You're essentially trying to mold them into it seems to me that the house system is a system for molding children.
It is a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah.
These children are told that you have to be a certain way, and then they internalize that.
Yeah.
Which is why, characters in different houses is such a popular fan fiction trope. Because you look at it and you think, actually, Harry is a Slytherin, Hermione is a Ravenclaw. These things would have changed that story.
Yeah.
And that says a lot about.
Yeah. Well,
So
I mean,
definitely
Harry,
the house of does.
The only reason Harry was actually put into Gryffindor is because he's like, I don't want to be a Slytherin.
But he only didn't want to be a Slytherin because he'd already internalized the propaganda Hagrid had repeated to him.
Yeah.
He'd internalized it so far, he looked at Slytherin, innocent teenagers, and was already viewing them as being a quote-unquote unpleasant lot. And for an 11-year-old to think that of an entire group of people who he's never met or interacted with, there's serious issues there.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
And a lot of it is about, it's the combination of the story Hagrid told him and the things which were patently and demonstrably untrue about all Slytherins turning bad and anyone who went bad was in Slytherin. Well, that's patently untrue because Peter Pettigrew much. There's a bunch of examples. But Harry really internalized that. And let's be honest, because Hagrid was the first person in his life to show him anything like kindness.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, that's how you distract me. Okay.
Yeah.
Pets.
Yeah.
And that is what happened, and that's what abused children do. You show them the slightest bit of kindness and they latch onto you, and that's exactly what Harry wasn't. Maybe not abused, but was definitely neglected.
I think he was definitely abused. I mean, the way he was treated was definitely abuse.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we hear about Petunia smacking him with a frying pan, Vernon,
I mean, they locked him in the cupboard, he just didn't have to sleep in it. He was locked in it. That's abuse.
And there's one example of it where he was locked in for so long after the snake incident, where school had already let out for the summer before he was allowed out. So he was missing school because they were locking him up in that cupboard.
Yeah.
So
he was abused.
I know social services in the UK are not great and are massively underfunded. They weren't that bad.
Yeah.
I assure you, any child who was missing that much school would be getting letters home and things would be being looked at.
Exactly.
Unless, of course,
even that aside,
Harry came from.
What about the abuse from Dumbledore because of that? Because Dumbledore knew what was going to happen.
And the thing
He
is,
deliberately put him in that
Dumbledore did the
position
same
for that.
thing to him. And Dumbledore did the same thing to him. He deliberately isolated himself from Harry when Harry needed him most.
Yeah.
Like all that time during Order of the Phoenix where he was ignoring Harry when Harry was quite clearly traumatized. And this poor kid is looking for someone to help him and he's just not getting it.
He was building character.
Yeah, but
building what
character? Yeah, that's what it came down to. He was turning Harry into the weapon he needed.
Ooh, perhaps Dumbledore was using magic to confound people who noticed the signs. Yeah,
that's a very popular headcanon within the Harry Potter fandom. That Dumbledore was confounding or obliviating the Muggles around Harry, to hide it. It's a very popular headcanon because it makes sense. Because someone should have noticed this kid is missing all this school. This kid is half the size of his cousin. This kid is jumpy. This kid is being
dressed
bullied
in
horrendously.
rags
Someone
that
should have
don't fit
noticed
him.
something. Yeah, exactly. And yet his cousin here, and his uncle's got a brand new car in the driveway. This is not a poor family. This is not the same excuse you can use for Snape as, his dad's probably been on strike for 6 months. They're living in a council house. They live in a poor area. Dad's probably a no-name something at the mill. You can't make the argument with Harry because Vernon is a salesman and a very high-up salesman, judging by it. So why did no one notice? And the only thing that makes sense is magical interference.
Which means Dumbledore was complacent in Harry's suffering. And he did it deliberately to mold Harry into the weapon he wanted. He didn't care about Harry as a person.
And of
he
course
never cared about Harry as a person.
That says a lot of things about the statute of separation.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty obvious that... I don't think Dumbledore really cares about anyone he interacts with.
I think Dumbledore put far too much called blood wards with the Dursleys.
Yeah.
He prioritized Harry's physical safety over his emotional and mental safety.
Thank you. I meant statute of secrecy.
See, now that's why I looked at you funny when you said that and didn't have a clue what you're talking about. But yeah, no, and there's two different readings of that I've come across in the fandom. You've either got the reading of Dumbledore genuinely didn't know how bad it was and thought that these wards were a final act of love between a pair of sisters, which if he'd known Lily at all, known James, known Petunia, or even heard of Vernon, he would know that's not true.
Yeah.
So, but it could have been well meant. Or there's that he genuinely didn't care as long as Harry was ready to fight his war.
And here we have Lucy, who likes Harry Potter.
Yeah.
So
Mrs. Fig knew. Molly Weasley knew as well. The Weasley boys definitely knew because Ron was yelling at Molly about.
So wasn't Mrs. Fig a what's the word? It starts
squib.
With yeah. So people in the magical community knew. We
Molly
don't have
knew for definite. For sure.
we don't. Yeah, we don't have any indication that.
You remember that Dumbledore had explained to the magical community that the only way to protect Harry was put him somewhere where they'd never find him, and this was the only place they could put him because it was family.
Yeah.
So and they don't. They're magical people. They don't
know any different.
Yeah.
I mean, as well, you have to consider the education at Hogwarts. The standard of education is incredibly poor. There are no critical thinking skills established in any of their classes, except maybe potions, and that's only really at high level.
Okay, so given Lucy's here now, do you consider Snape a hero, Lucy?
Yeah.
She wrote in one letter that's what we know from the text, maybe a couple of letters. But so he knew who Petunia was, but maybe he remembered that girl and thought, well, she'll be absolutely thrilled. A magical child under a roof. Maybe he didn't think it would turn out. I don't know. I don't like trying to get into Dumbledore's psyche because it freaks me out.
Oh,
Here we go.
Oh.
Hermione did say that, Emily, you are right. Logic would trip most wizards up because most wizards don't have an ounce of logic. Which is used as an explanation for far too much.
Yeah.
But says a lot about the culture that that's even allowed to happen.
Yeah. So I mean, it does seem like being logical and empirical could trip up your ability to use magic.
Well, this is why Hermione was made fun of in Prisoner of Azkaban when she went to divination and didn't believe in it, and eventually walked out. Again, and I still can't pronounce his name. Zeno Lovegood did it to Hermione again and said, did the whole thing with the stone when he was explaining the resurrection stone. Hermione said quite incredulously, well, if your argument is that I haven't seen every stone in the world, so I don't know that this stone exists. And he says, yes, that's my argument. And he's presented as the one using logic.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this thing of anything Hermione's incredulous about, anything any Muggle-born is incredulous about, is proven real in this series, which is incredibly problematic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or they are proven wrong, which is incredibly problematic from the point of view of Muggle-borns are not viewed as being.
Lucy.
Yeah. You're going to start a war if you carry on with this one. Lucy, how do you respond to him saying that lately he allowed those to die only whom he could not save? Or his absolute horror at being told that Harry was raised as a pig for slaughter?
Oh.
I'm not going to fight. We're all entitled to our own opinions, but I do think. Well, I'm wearing the T-shirt, so.
Everybody's entitled to their opinions. Yours is just wrong.
Oh.
In the film, please don't tell me he showed up at Godric's Hollow because I will destroy that theory.
I stood up. I had to go do something, so I missed what the whole thing was about.
Evan asked Lucy what she thought of Snape, and all hell's breaking loose in the chat.
I do kind of agree with her. Snape was a bully.
That doesn't mean he wasn't a hero, though.
But she doesn't. I didn't.
No.
She said
I like Snape from the book.
No, that's not true. I've loved Snape from the books. I loved him from that first speech.
Did Hissy, did you read the books? Well, I mean, I know you can't have read all the books before the movies, but did you read the first books before the movies?
I had read up to and including Goblet of Fire when the film was made.
Okay, I'd read the first
and
three before the film was made. So
yeah, because I think Goblet of Fire and the film came out very close to each other, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my parents basically wouldn't buy the DVD. So I ended up reading Goblet of Fire before I got to see the film.
So I still saw Snape as developing as a hero character, even not knowing how the story was going to end, even in the early books.
Well, I noticed in the early books that Snape was always the guy who rescued Harry or saved Harry in some way. So,
despite not liking him, that's the thing. I mean, that's a sign of a hero.
Yeah, I didn't.
I don't
like
this person, but I'm gonna save you anyway.
Yeah.
But I think Snape didn't like Harry. The audience weren't supposed to like Snape. I have to like someone to understand that they're a hero.
Yeah.
I can sit and compare him to historical literary figures and mythological figures all day long and tell you how I don't like Achilles, I don't like Hercules, I don't like Odysseus, I don't like, Aeneas. And
how do you not like Hercules?
Did you see what he did to his wife?
I know exactly what he did to his wife, but it wasn't his fault.
Oh, this
All
is an
ancient Greek
entirely
men were
different
pretty
show.
racist,
This
so-
one.
What happened to Hercules' wife was not Hercules' fault.
Yeah, but Hercules was a pretty rapey guy. That's my argument.
Well, that was the culture back then, though.
Exactly.
So,
and
I mean, yeah,
that's why I don't
like
like
In
it.
today's
Within
society,
the culture that
yeah,
existed in, it was normal, but that doesn't mean I like them now.
what I'm saying is in today's culture, yeah, his but you got to look at their culture when it happened, not today's culture when it didn't happen, because it's two completely. I'm not.
Yeah.
I want to make it perfectly clear. I'm not condoning what he did, but in the context of when it happened, that was the norm. So I want to specify that because I don't want to be labeled something that I'm not.
Oh no,
Yeah.
absolutely. This is an entire. This is a friendly chat. What I'm getting at with Hercules and not liking him is on a visceral, personal level. This character, I don't like him in my own context. I can appreciate he was a good character in his own context without necessarily liking who he was in my own. I can understand that in his own context he was a hero and a great man. That doesn't necessarily mean that he's the kind of guy I want to go out drinking with on a Friday night.
Yeah.
Well, I go ahead. I go ahead and beer with Hercules.
So
yeah, but you're not worrying about him raping you.
So I would say
I don't know. You might have to worry about that. He was Greek after all.
In ancient Greek culture, it didn't matter if you were male or female.
Yeah. So,
well, it did, but not so much to the person on top.
I will say that Snape is very much an anti-hero in that he's a hero that doesn't fit the normal heroic mold.
Oh yes,
he's definitely not. He's definitely of the anti-hero archetype.
Yeah.
Yes, but he definitely comes off as the hero at the end of the story.
And I don't know if you noticed, but during your rant, Lucy put up always.
Mm-hmm.
No, not always. Lately, only those whom I could not save.
Yeah.
Whereas I think Dumbledore, despite trying to put off an image of being a nice, gentle guy, actually does come off very much as the a bad guy. I
think that's a great lesson to take from the Potter series, that you shouldn't judge people by their looks as well.
Yeah.
Because if Snape had been the tall, dark, and handsome, well filled out with good teeth, and relatively, decent, he would have been much more likely. He's making about everyone liking him for Alan Rickman.
Yeah.
If he'd been played by someone who, was not as fantastically voiced and as Rickman, he did not fit.
There's a loss for all of us. Alan Rickman passed.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Alan Rickman was great, but for what that character should have been, he was too handsome, frankly.
What's the movie he played an angel in?
Dogma.
Dogma. That was an amazing film.
Metatron.
Yeah, he was Metatron. That's right.
The voice of God.
Yeah.
I mean, with Alan Rickman's voice, you can believe it.
Oh, he was brilliant.
But I know what you mean by that, Lucy, but I think I did like Snape before I saw Alan Rickman as Snape. I didn't actually like Alan Rickman as Snape when I first saw it. Alan Rickman had to grow on me as Snape. I mean, he grew on me very quickly. Like, by the end of the first film, I was like, yeah, that's Snape. But I didn't particularly
honestly,
like
I think he's the only character in it who I actually felt was the character. Oh, and Maggie Dent is
Maggie Smith. Maggie Smith was definitely.
Yeah, McGonagall. She fitted that so well.
Yeah.
Yeah, she fit that perfectly.
Yeah.
Cast. But with Alan Rickman, I felt he was about 20 years too old, and far too handsome, and his voice was far too hypnotic for that character. Snape spends a lot of time yelling and screaming in the books, and that doesn't translate on screen at all.
Yes, because Alan Rickman.
But that's the direction as opposed to the actor.
This.
I still think he came over right as the character, though. Even though he didn't yell and scream like in the books, the way he did it, his passive-aggressive way of playing those parts was just so brilliant. He just made the character his own.
Our new
Snape was
celebrity.
Snape was very much the kind of character who, especially as played by Alan Rickman, who could insult you. You knew he'd insulted you, but you weren't quite sure what he actually meant.
Yeah.
He was
and that's why he came across. That's what's so great about. I mean, as far as wizards go, he's one of the smartest ones there was.
By a country mile.
Yeah.
I mean, he legitimately invented his own spells. Most of them aren't doing that.
Yeah.
Ellen worked for at least not
don't know.
startling students into blowing up more cauldrons.
I don't know, if I was working on a pool next to me, I'd probably jump. But I think what Alan Rickman brought to the role was that soft-spokenness. Then when he did shout, it had even more of an impact.
Yeah.
So there were certain scenes that Alan Rickman, it felt almost pantomime. It felt like I was watching Robin Hood again, watching Alan Rickman shout and scream as Snape.
Yeah.
Because you're so used to the way Rickman's played him as being very passive.
Yeah.
Cut his eye out with a spoon. Why? No hurt more.
Yeah.
So, I think we've pretty much covered it. At least for now. We could easily, pick a topic and go into more detail at a later date.
We could cover him again, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need to do a stream just dedicated to Snape because you've done a lot of him here and you've barely scratched the surface.
Yeah. So
I wonder if we could persuade Lucy to be on.
Oh, I'd be happy to moderate a Lucy versus Hissy Snape debate.
Oh wow.
I'm up for that. Or what we do is maybe get 2 on each side just to moderate.
Do we have somebody who doesn't think that Lucy was Lucy? I'm tired.
I'll go on Tumblr and make a Snape post in 15 minutes. I'll have 20 aunties for you to pick from.
Yeah.
I'll find someone if we say we're going to do this.
Yeah.
But it is very much. It would be interesting to do that, but we would have to set a lot of ground rules because the Snape fandom gets really vicious.
Yeah.
Want to cause any major upset or any lasting ill will.
Yep.
With anyone.
Also, you'd have to do it. You'd have to almost do it tongue in cheek.
Yeah. So
you kind of would have to.
Yeah.
So Jay, go ahead and show yourself.
Oh, me. I'm still not.
Yeah, you're Jay.
I'm usually sleeping, but I got a lot.
You're not awake, and I'm nearly asleep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think. Well, no, not. Well, a couple of people. Emily, I don't know if I've ever met Emily before, but Jay from ETC. Today, lots of stuff going on today. At 3 p.m., I will be over on the Shills with Sarcastic Barman's Poker Night. Then at 6, I start my birthday celebration stream. That's going to go for however long it goes. Anybody that wants in, just let me know. I'll shoot you a link. It's just an open chat. Nothing special going on. Just 1 year because today is my 1 year YouTube anniversary. So if anybody wants in, stay as long as you want. Stay for the whole thing. Stay for 10 minutes. It doesn't matter.
Stay a while. Stay forever.
And then the only other thing I got is myself and Raven are working on our first serial killer video. She's got a lot of the script written for it, and that will be on Jack the Ripper. So we're not. So like I said before, I'm not sure how we're gonna go about whether we're gonna do one big one, one obscure one, two big ones, one obscure one, or how we're gonna do it. But
yeah,
we're gonna wait and see how the first one turns out, and then we'll go from there. She's got one she really wants to do. I've got one I really want to do, but we figured Jack would probably be the best one to start it out with.
Yeah.
Since he's probably the most prolific serial killer.
Yeah.
Well, not prolific. Prolific's not the right word. Probably most well known.
Most infamous.
Yeah. So. And yeah, that's about all I got. So come join us at 6 p.m. Have fun, whatever. That'll be 11 Britain time, between 7 and 11 Australian time, depending on where you're at in Australia. AM. Right, Jen?
Me? Yeah, AM.
Yeah.
It was 7 a.m. for you, but I think it's like 10 a.m. for like if you're over by
Yeah.
Sam in pasture.
Depends. The ones in Queensland will be 9. For pasture, it'll be 10.
Yeah. So, and then and for mountain time, it'll be 4 p.m.
Yeah,
So-
I'll have to be crashed out by then.
Yeah, I said it's gonna go for whenever. So
Yeah.
pop in at some point. The link will be in the Twitter chat.
Yeah.
And then,
Twitter.
and then if, like you said, anybody that wants to join, just send me a link. Message me on Twitter, Discord, email, whatever. Let me know if
Yep.
you want to jump on, and I'll shoot you a link. So that's all I got.
And Hissy? Anything you
I'm
want
on
to do?
Twitter as Danger Hissy. All my contacts are pinned at the top of my Twitter. Pay attention to any warnings if you find my fan fiction, because you can find me mostly on AO3 on there, where I do a lot of co-writing with Emily, who has been in the chat today and has been absolutely brilliant. Also, I'm going to shill Emily, who you will find there as my co-writer, because her writing's amazing. She's not just in the Harry Potter fandom. And I'm just waiting for it to pop up and her to call me a brat now. Jen, so I've been talking to a lot of you. I've seen what's going on in the culture, so I'm just going to remind you all, Navadia still needs a new camera. Purple still needs donations if you can get it. But definitely, as Emily just put, I will drop a link as a comment to Emily and I's main fan fiction. So we've got that, or I'll give it to Ring to put in the video description. That I do, but if you do find me, fair warning, I've been toning my language down a lot on this stream. I don't think I've sworn once. That is not normal. And
We love you, Hissy.
just for all my stuff, do not eat. Seriously, you've been given your warning. Flashing lights, warning.
You're no worse
18
than
plus
me,
for a
Hissy.
reason. Yeah, I'm no worse than you, except when I'm on Twitter and it's late at night. I think I'm probably borderline there. But that's all I've got to Charlotte. Starting to think about maybe looking into doing podcasts and things. I haven't decided yet where I'm going with that, so we will see. But right now, that's what I want to share. I do want to definitely get the word out about Purple's need for donations and Navadia's camera, and just thank everyone, this community that you've all come in and you've welcomed Ring in, and you've welcomed me as well. And I just really want to say thank you, because I would not have felt comfortable showing my face on YouTube if it wasn't for a lot of you guys as well.
Yeah.
So you guys are all brilliant. Atheist Pastor, the Daily Atheist. I've been following you all. I'm sure Crit's got plenty of links for you, and Ring has as well. So yeah, go for it. And before I forget, definitely, if you donate to Navadia's camera fund, remember you're doing it in the name of Ron. And it's so the link is
Who
just
hasn't
now,
got banned
should be
yet?
appearing in the live chat.
I don't know.
Hasn't
I
been
blocked
banned
him.
yet, but the longer he's not
I blocked
banned,
him too.
yeah,
not
I
banned.
got annoyed with him using Judaism as a bludgeon against me. But he doesn't want Navadia to make any money off being a fantastic content creator snake. So She needs a new camera, guys. Off you go.
And Jen?
I'm Jen from Jen's Little Corner. Check out my videos. I do a lot of debunking of goddamn stupid fucking idiots who don't know how to science. And
did you look at that channel I sent you?
I have. And I also do atheist and LGBTQ plus content. I'm going to be starting up a talk show soon where I'll be having guests that I interview about various different types of communicating. So where I talk to science communicators and atheist communicators and how people communicate their thoughts and ideas to other people. So that's kind of what the series is going to be about. And yeah, I should have a new video out soon. I've spent most of the last couple of days sleeping when I haven't been on streams. That's what happens when you're sick. I'm done.
Okay, hold on.
Dave, do me a favour, please check your Twitter messages. I'm just sending you the link for Emily's fan fictions there. So you've got it, and mine's going to follow. So you've got that. Pretty much you spot a Danger Noodle anywhere on the internet. Usually it's me.
Okay.
I seem to have the monopoly on that name.
Danger Hissy.
Yeah.
And so this Tuesday is going to be this month's installment of Dungeons and Divinity. I'm probably going with Elisha. And we don't have a topic for next Media Musings.
Don't we?
No.
Oh. When are we planning on doing Doctor Who?
When we can get Shannon on.
Oh, that's true. That's right. We wanted Shannon.
Or you know what? Maybe this.
Why don't we do Star Wars and have Badger on?
Well, because we're doing Star Wars in May for May the 4th.
Oh yeah, too. That's
so,
right. We're doing May
you know what?
What about Star Trek?
Actually, you know what? I'm thinking next week we might just take a week off for Media Musings, and I'll just do my 100 sub stream Q&A then.
That's a good plan. Yeah, no, that's a good plan, and that gives us a chance to sort out a few other things. So
yeah,
cool.
So, anyone have taglines that they want to sign out with?
Just be water, my friends.
I will say thank you all. Be good, and if you can't be good, be careful.
And remember, indoctrination is a hell of a selfie stick.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.